Several questions I've received in response to previous episodes have to do with specific mental health concerns, in each case, ones that also have societal components. It's important for me to make clear that I won't here be responding to people's personal psychological questions. That's beyond anything that can be done usefully in this format. But the more societal component in people's concerns is very much an appropriate topic, and I very much encourage such questions. Very often you'll find my answers coming back to cultural maturity-related issues. In the second episode, for example, I tied today's growing frequency of suicide to what creative systems theory speaks of as today's crisis of purpose. We can make similar associations with other troubling concerns that engage us at a personal level, such as the addiction crisis, increasing rates of anxiety and depression, and today's epidemic of gun violence. With the suicide example, I associated suicide's growing prevalence with the aimlessness that people so often feel with today's loss of guiding stories. I also noted that the interventions that worked in some way all help the person get more deeply in touch with purpose in their lives. And I implied somehow that this deeper connection had to be not just with purpose in a personal sense, but with the changing nature of purpose in culture as a whole. I find all of this to be similar to the case when working with other increasingly prevalent societal concerns, such as those that I just noted. We can expand this kind of observation to less obviously psychological issues. For example, today we are seeing decreases in expected lifespan, something we have not witnessed in recent history. Over the last decade, life expectancy in the U.S. fell on a sustained basis for the first time since World War II. The largest contributor, leaving out the epidemic, is what is often called afflictions of despair. This includes deaths that are products of health problems like high blood pressure, diabetes, strokes, and obesity that have their roots in stress, poor nutrition, poor self-care, and healthcare inequities. The various afflictions that produce these disturbing numbers all have specific treatments that can provide benefit, but in most all instances, the effectiveness of these treatments is much less than we might prefer. A big part of what makes treatment difficult is that the causes with these afflictions are societal and psychological as much as medical. It is not so much disease that is killing us than that we are killing ourselves through our choices. What we find is captured well by the creative systems theory concept of transitional absurdity. It's a notion that I address in detail in my writings and that we'll return to for a closer look with later episodes. The concept describes how our times have distanced us from key aspects of ourselves needed if we are to live meaningful and ultimately healthy lives. In another way, we confront how cultural maturity's changes are needed or if we are to have any kind of healthy and perhaps even survivable human future. This observation brings with it both good news and bad news. The good news is that antidotes and treatments may in fact exist. There's also the fact that the causes of various afflictions are related means that a similar antidote be provided answer in each case. The observations in this series about how we are needing to think and act in new and mature ways can thus be thought of as helping us realize what is required. The bad news is that the needed antidote asks a lot of us. As much as we might like, there are no quick fixes. I've observed that it may well be 20, 30, or 50 years before the importance of the kinds of changes that the concept of cultural maturity points toward are generally appreciated. And it will likely be well into the next century before we know whether we will be successful in succeeding with these changes. The needed stretch is considerable, and there's no guarantee that we will succeed in making it. If we fail, at best our future will not be bright. So again, we find our apparent paradox. The challenge is immense and complex. It includes every part of our personal collective lives. And at the same time, in bringing together so much in human experience and its potential being developmentally built into who we are, in a way it is simple, at least in how critical it will be to our future well-being. Engaging it is obviously necessary. In the end, common sense. Again, questions and thoughts are appreciated. Thank you.